Yo, what's goody? It is Bear in the building. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Queen Talk. If you are new here, welcome. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, leave a comment, let us know what you think of this very special episode. Y'all, we got a very special guest. I peeped Forrest down in the hotel lobby, y'all. She is a licensed Atlanta-based librarian, HBCU grad, proud legacy of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, with a background in academia, special libraries, and cultural institutions. She now works in sports and tech in a major media company. She's also a contributor at Gay Magazine and the founder of Favorite Librarian, a platform amplifying Black and queer literature. Please help me welcome our favorite librarian, Forrest Evans.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Kueen. I appreciate you. And seeing you at World Pride was so wonderful. It was serendipitous just connecting with you then.
Definitely. You was just scrolling in there. I was like, I told you beforehand, and I put a previous episode out, but if you didn't see it, I was the night before I had seen you guys had just walked into the club, and I didn't say anything because you had just started working, just got into that interview, and it was like late. It was like past 1:30, and I was like, oh, they be working. So I headed down, go to the hotel, and I was like, I'm gonna see him again. I seen you the next day in the hotel lobby. I was like, this is my opportunity. Came in there, but you just got off the airplane. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just attended Frolic Weekend in Provincetown. Shout out to all of the organizers for Frolic Weekend. It's once a year where queer men and trans men gather and they just celebrate life and frolic in one of the most posh places, one of the most queerest cities in the United States. And it was wonderful.
Was there a lot of women? Did you feel like you were the only woman, or how was that for you?
Okay, I'm glad we're getting into that. So, Queer Women of Color Weekend started, in my opinion, some of the Black and people of color queer folks gathering in Provincetown, and they have been gathering long before Frolic Weekend. Frolic Weekend took an opportunity to celebrate cisgendered queer men and trans men and masculine queer men presenting. And so I was the only woman there, but, I was there for a job. I was there, to do my job. But I would love to support queer women of color. If I'm not mistaken, it's Ja, who is the founder, if I'm pronouncing their name right, J or Ja. And they have really set the standard, and Frolic Weekend has just amplified and just executed it every year beyond. So it was fun. But no, I'm looking for more spaces. And let me say this, the queer community is very segregated, not only based on race, but gender. When it comes to queer spaces, it's mostly for gay men, prioritizing cisgendered men. And queer women, if you're not passable in certain hyper mask or hyper feminine ways that establish that you are a part of the queer community or anywhere within the non-binary or excusing the binary. It is hard to sometimes navigate those queer spaces that are prioritizing men because you're looked at as a Judy or an ally. You have to come out in these spaces just to assure that this is also for me. And so it's very telling, but Frolic Weekend was very inviting and warm to me as a cisgender queer woman. So, and this is my second year attending. So I'm definitely going to be back, but come to Queer Women of Color Weekend, come from Kansas and come on to Provincetown.
Hey, as I was telling you before this, it's interesting your perspective living in like a predominantly Black queer space. In my opinion, like from the outside looking in, I'm like, yeah, Atlanta full of gay Black people, like that's a place, but it's still like segregated at the same time, that's here too, and that's why I was telling you before, like that's why I started Queen Talk, was because going into queer spaces put on like by the city or events are really white. So you could spot us out in the places like you go to. So I really needed to create that space, but also like you mentioned, it being segregated by gender too. I being the place I met you at was the first time I had ever experienced a spot full of only queer women. Like that was my first time ever. Like any other time I go to a gay spot, it is full of men. It is always gay men. Never the women are in there. So like I was like this. I was like, oh, like it was definitely healing the inner childhood, being in that space for me for sure. But for you, especially working with Gay Magazine, like you get that often, right?
Yes, very often. In Atlanta, we have so many Black lesbian promoters and producers of entertainment and events for the queer community, whether it be Queers on the Ground, that's hosted by Teddy, whether it be Queers and Beers, which is Black queer operated and owned. They meet once a month. And in these spaces, it also supports if you are on a journey of sobriety or if you want to turn up, as well as, but they focus not only on cisgendered women, but also gender non-binary, intersex, also trans. They create that space where otherness is often considered second to prioritizing cisgendered queer men. And so when we were connecting at World Pride, there is also a lesbian bar there. It's called A League of Their Own. Atlanta also has one of the 16 lesbian bars in the country, my sister's room. But these spaces still have an element of segregation because they're mostly white women. So when we connected there, it was Black, queer women of all expressions, of all fluidity, of all types of relationships. People weren't just looking for monogamy, they were looking for poly relationships, or they were open. So it was just so wonderful to be celebrated.
Yes, there was so many. Like a lot of my first happened at DC, and I'm glad I'm getting to talk to you about it because like just before, if a lot of people don't know this, like it's I was the only Black woman in my graduating class. All the rest were like half Black, half white, or fully white. So the Midwest, like a Black queer person in the Midwest has a completely different experience to someone raised in Atlanta. So the ball, when I seen the ball and that the diversity in the ball, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, this is amazing. So it was so cool to see. And like it other people, it was like I thought most of the people would be from DC going there, but after talking to people, they were from all over. Like not even a lot of people were from actually DC that when we were there.
Yes.
So it's like everyone was coming there searching for that.
Yes. And let me say this. I kind of found love in DC. So it
Okay.
so that's why I'm going back in this week going to DC. But but everyone from around the way and that's one thing I love because when you told me that you are from Kansas, I was like, they got us out there, queer, Black.
You weren't the only one that asked that. You're not the only one that said that.
I know that sounds ignorant, but I was like, hold on, are you sure you're from Kansas? Maybe you just migrated there. I was like, wow. But I was like, yes. Not only does that affirm for me that we at any intersection, because the Black queer experience is not monolithic. It's not LA, Atlanta, DC, New York, but it's across the diaspora around the globe and country. And so when you and I met your partner and you guys express, how you navigate that scene and the importance of creating your podcast and just a platform for others like us to connect and find community, I was like, oh wow, maybe I need to explore how to engage those communities I really would overlook, thinking they don't really have anybody there. But you do, you're present.
Exactly. Yeah. And we always get overlooked because it's like people, like you said, we're there. Yeah, we're here. And even though like we're here, we're also just like in our own, we don't celebrate our queerness, but we'll celebrate our Blackness. So like I went to Juneteenth we'll like I see a lot of queer people at Juneteenth, but I don't see them at the Wichita Pride events, and that is also because like if I wasn't on the board, there's other events that are catered to Black people, and I feel like that's partially why, because we rather be in that space, and we're, even though it's can be uncomfortable at time in those spaces too, but it's more comfortable in those spaces than it is in the white queer spaces for us.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
You're on the board as well. I'm on the board of directors here in Atlanta Pride. Being on the board can sometimes feel lonely when you're the only Black queer woman there. And sometimes I have people to come up to me and they'll ask, why are you on the board if you're intentionally choosing to be not a part of tokenism, but the only one? And like, have you experienced those conversations too?
Yes. So I've been on, this is my second board I've ever been on. My first one was called Glisten, Kansas, and it was also a queer board. You've heard of Glisten, Kansas, haven't you? With the K through 12 schools, they ensure the safety. They give PDs to the teachers, and they give resources to students. And so, being on that board, I was younger, and I still was the only Black person, and I did feel tokenized, like having to speak up for us, and I fell in a shell, and I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Well, then I started Queen Talk, and going into like the prides here. So I vendors places, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are white. They're coming through. They're seeing my banner that says a podcast for LGBTQ by BIPOC. So then they're like thinking, you get the white people that are like, oh, I'm for Black queer people, so I want like are engaged. But then majority of them here, they walk past it. They're like, oh, this isn't for me, which that's not true, because I've been all my life been in only white spaces and have made it for me in some way. So this podcast is for white people too. They just don't put themselves in Black spaces intentionally. And so that's the difference. And so when I was doing this podcast afterwards, I was like, okay. And I would see the people of color come by, and when they see my banner and see them light up, I was like, this is my why. Because they come by and they don't, like, I'm one of few vendors of color in these spaces, and they see it's a queer podcast for them. Like, you don't get that often, unless, like, when I was doing my research, you see podcasts like all the things you named in Atlanta or Cali or DC, but nothing in this Midwest area. So it's like they see it and they light up. And I was like, okay, someone has to be the person in the room for these people. Someone has to do it. And so like, I was like, I reached out to the Wichita Pride Board, and I was like, I want to do this. And I am the only Black woman on there. And some few spots opened up. So if you see this, I need you guys to get on the board. I've been hitting my people up like, hey, I need you on the board. There's a couple of spots open up. And so I am a voice in that room for us. And I don't mind being the voice because it's needed. And someone has to be in the room. Otherwise, we're never going to get thought of. And so instead of being like, oh, you're always being tokenized, someone has to be the start. And I don't plan on being the only token forever. Like, it's just the start to get more people in the room, to get our voices heard, to make sure that they're going to the Juneteenth, being a part of that, to make sure that they're handing out things, or just like thinking of, because if you're not in the room, it will not get done. It will not get done because they're not thinking of us. They're not intentionally thinking of us. And that's just because it's a privilege. You don't have to. You don't have to. So, and being on the Wichita Pride Board or being on the Atlanta Pride Board, do you also feel that way? Being in Atlanta, which is like in my eyes, a Black queer space.
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to get a little controversial. Atlanta has Zami Nobla, which is the nation's oldest, largest Black lesbian organization. They previously gave out scholarships, have great initiatives. They also have a home that they purchase as their community center, where they also provide a lot of outreach, instructional programming. But in order to join this group, you have to be of a certain age, which means if you're like from 18 to 50, you can gain a mentorship, but as far as consistently fellowshipping with these older Black lesbian women, no. So it leaves a lot of the party spaces and that you can be seen or to find community. But like again, when you meet someone, whether they are in their sobriety journey or however they have met themselves with accepting themselves and affirming themselves, you don't always want to one, spend money, and two, be outside throwing your behind in an irregular shape. So joining Atlanta Pride, I want joining Atlanta Pride, I wanted to add visibility for people between 18 to 45 to say, hey, here are other areas in the community that may be white queer operated, but there's a prioritization where it's for BIPOC or queer people of color or queer Black people of color at any intersection of the gender spectrum regardless of binary. And so for me, whether it be an educational class I'm showing up to and then going working an event at like Bulldog, which is the Black gay club, which is predominantly male, my visibility is to ensure someone that one, we're in the room, and two, there are other areas you can be seen outside just the traditional nightlife, turning up or spending money. You can go do crafts. You can do, like I said, Queers on the Green, where it's just a hill of Black queer women, they, thems, and we're watching a movie on the greens with snacks and picnics. Like, so there's something for you. And that, I'm not going to lie, I really feel like every Black queer person in America, specifically cisgendered and femme or mass presenting, just queer Black women should experience Atlanta at least once. Not only during Pride, but some of the events that we have going on monthly, just to see that like there are spaces affluently like that, supported by us, for us.
Does Atlanta Pride partner with those sponsors or with those organizations too, or is it very segregated, like you said before?
Now, Atlanta Pride has done a great job at collaborating with a significant amount of organizations. We share the office with Lambda Legal, the Atlanta Legal Atlanta chapter. We work with a lot of the establishments here, whether it be Bulldogs or Atlanta Eagle, Felix, Hispanic Queer Owned, Oscars, Tens. And, Atlanta, I want to say, in my opinion, now, we both went to DC, so there's a lot of queer clubs on U Street and also in the Adams Morgan area. But Atlanta, in my opinion, we have the most people of color queer owned and operated businesses that don't just have a night for Blacks or a night for Hispanics or a night for the women, because in those spaces, whether you go to Bulldogs, yes, they've had some discriminatory practices where they used to charge women, whether you were cisgender or not, more than men at the door. So areas like that where there have been some efforts of gatekeeping, the community spoke up. We let it be known that, hey, you're privatizing men and masculinity in a way that we see patriarchy prioritize white cisgendered men. Doing that in our community is a form of self-hate. Let's not do that, or we're gonna shut some shit down. Some stuff down. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we mean that, and so that's one thing I love about Atlanta's, social community.
Speaking of social community, recently on my podcast, I told you before I released it, the platonic friendships in the queer community. How is that dynamic in and where you're from? Like, especially you're interviewing a lot of people, you hang out with a lot of people. Do you have a lot of queer friends, a queer group? Is it easy to find studs and stud friends, femmes and stud friends for you, or what? How's that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So I like to consider myself a feminine presenting woman, not high, but I like my range of expression goes from feminine to androgynous, not gender fluid, so androgynous. And my friends are mostly they, them folks. They're mostly gender non-binary and mass presenting. My best friends, Courtney, a few others, they are hyper feminine queer women. But my primary group of friends that I hang out with every week, who I'm going to go hang out with tonight at Lure to go do some karaoke, we do it every week, It's our thing. So that way we don't always have to eat because some people may be battling something differently, but we go to just sing or just to talk or go smoke on the patio. That's our once a week thing. So yes, it is easy to find community. We found each other through mutual friends, attending events like Queers and Beers, and we kept seeing each other. And we are like, okay, are you here by yourself? I'm like, yeah. Okay, we'll just stick with the crew. Like, wait, I know you from such and such's birthday party, and we just created a nucleus. So yes, it's very easy to find community if you put yourself out there. Nobody's gonna find you through, Bumble friends if you don't swipe and go see them. Well, get out your house. You know what I'm saying? As well as for love, you got to get out of your head. And let me say this: the way you meet people teaches them how to love you. It doesn't teach them how to be the person you want them to be. So you have to meet people where they are. And when I say that, I established immediately platonic boundaries with my friends. I do not want you in any sexual or romantic way. I want you to find that in the world. So there's this sometimes stigma with Atlanta being hypersexual and promiscuous, but there are times where you can create community without it being all of your exes or somebody that you were in a talking or a situationship and it didn't work out. So now y'all just locked in forever. No, you can find friends genuinely.
Are you born and raised in Atlanta?
No, I am a military brat, but Southeast Georgia is my home. Shout out to 912, the SAV area.
Okay, so you grew up all over then.
Yes, but Atlanta has become my home because I never thought I would be there. I honestly thought I would live and die in SAV after my dad retired military. And then I realized I don't feel as safe in my own hometown and area to be queer, even in the Black community, even in my religious community, because and even in the spaces that are primarily white that I navigate professionally, because one, it's not just my physical safety, but my emotional. I go back and forth with myself about the things I don't like about me. Why would I want to go back and forth with you on a daily basis about why you don't like me? So I had to research the best places of employment and where the most queer women were. And I found Zambi Nobla. But I was so disappointed because I was like, I can't join them until I turn 50, really 45, 50. So until then, I just need to be around these women because other women are flocking here. And that was during a time where we had another previous bar in Atlanta called Phase One, for all those that know. And that bar used to be the Black lesbian party of them all, the every other night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's I'm not gonna lie, that's what the studs and the aggressives, like the movie, the aggressive. That's what they would be. Like women that will pick you up, put you on your shoulder, take you to their section, and they ask you to buy a bottle. Them kind of women. They were there. It was
Oh,
a time. But yes, it was a time. But Atlanta's my second home. Hmm.
okay. Awesome. When you were growing up, you mentioned being in like a Christian home, like not feeling comfortable in those spaces. When did you say like I'm part of the community?
Um, you ready for this, friend? So I have always been a gold star up until a few years ago. So for me, it wasn't about coming out. I was just affirming, like, yeah, I don't like men at all. They my best friends, but I ain't gonna be with one of them. Like, and it wasn't until a few years ago, maybe I want to say in 2014, I was like, I want to see what that looked like. I just want to see what that. Let me just see something. And I was like, oh no, I definitely am a lesbian woman. Or excuse me, I identify as a lesbian, but I am definitely a pansexual loving person. I've dated every variation of women, regardless of where they are within their expression of womanhood. But I've also dated other they, them, and bodies amongst the queer spectrum. But I identify as a lesbian because socially, culturally, that's been not only what I've made of my identity, but that I've most related to with some of the Black lesbians that I looked up to, like Anita Cornwell and Audre Lorde, although I have a love-hate relationship with her. I don't appreciate her association with whiteness, but can talk about her Black love and just being on the battles of each other's battles. But what about when you were dating that white woman and then you dated that white gay man for 10 years and had 2 kids with him? But anyway, but stuff like that.
So,
Oh, we can get into it, friend. We can.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm not going to. I'm not, Forrest. I'm not about to do that with you. Because I'm not about to do that. I'm not. I want to stay on the course. Okay. Stay on the course. Okay.
I like
Okay. So that was the first time. That's the first time you tried it with a man. Then, so had you experience with females before then?
Oh yes. Oh yes. This kitty cat was hot and ready. I was nah. I knew, like I said, gold star. I knew exactly what I wanted, how I wanted, when I wanted, with whom. This is a 4 colors only water fountain. I knew the kind of women I wanted to be with. That's why I went to an HBCU to have the best pickings. In the yes. So, I knew what I wanted.
Okay. Did you express this to your guardians, to your family?
Yeah. So my mom is a therapist and my dad is retired military. And my parents are my biggest allies. Now, although they may not support
Good.
my date, because they're like, you could have picked anybody else. You could have picked us, a Tiana Taylor, but here you are bringing the brat. And she was so my parents, they up on it. They watch everything with Gay Mag. So sometimes when I do, some risque interviews, they're like, hey, hey, hey. Sometimes they'll call me, be like, or send screenshots. They're like, this stud monkey just picked you up in the club. Why your feet always off the ground? Like they gather me together. They do, but they're allies, big allies.
That's good. That is good. What got you working with Gay Magazine?
So initially, I came on as logistics coordinator and working really with articles. That was probably my role, just articles and logistics coordination and supporting that behind the scenes. And out of necessity, we were like, hey, Gay Magazine is getting big. We need to do some like street talk. We need to get people on the ground because, like I said, Atlanta has a niche for certain visibility for different Black queer intersections, Black trans, queer, and non-binary intersex. The Black queer immigrant community as well. So we were like, hey, let's just put boots on the ground, go to the spots that we always go to every week, and just put a mic in front of some of the people we know and see and don't know. It started taking off. And it also took off far greater and longer than what Favorite Librarian. I created Favorite Librarian in 2018. I've been with Gay Magazine a little bit longer than that. And so just seeing it grow and develop, it's a full circle moment. So we're all being rewarded by the fruits of our labor. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, pushing on. You said 2018 it hasn't hit the 10-year mark, but it's coming close. Do you feel like when you started Gay Magazine, and Gay Magazine, for those that don't know, is a magazine that is for queer people that amplifies mostly Black voices, but the E represents embrace everyone, everywhere through education, entertainment, and empowerment. When you guys started that, did you ever think like, oh, you're leaving groups out when you're doing it, or were you really just like, I'm doing this for mostly Black queer people because this is what's needed?
Okay, brilliant question. So our core founders, Dominic Gay, who it's named after Gaye, and Keith Corey, this was actually really a project, a senior project, as well as just a passion project of Dominic Gay. And the two of them created this almost like how Lipstick Alley was, just creating a spot where queer voices can be seen and heard, whether it be news, editorials, community information, or resources. And through that development, it became more niche because of the response. We listened to our community, which is why empowerment, enlightenment, and education is what that E represents, but also our founder's name, because this is also an ode to him and just his commitment just to be visible, regardless of how many people would subscribe or look at the content, because it was all free, as it still is today. And we started booming because of the people we were able to interview that we knew in the Atlanta area. And that's where we were able to be flown out and get different bookings to go different places to support, whether a film premiere and opening. And so, with that, being one of the three on air talent, Nappy Boy, who is a cisgendered queer man, and then you have Nikki, who is trans identifying, and then myself, who is a queer cisgendered woman. Not that those are all the avenues, but that until we're able to expand and, afford that, we have some visibility where someone amongst the queer spectrum, with a Black American, West Indies, Caribbean, Indigenous people of color can look and say, okay. And then from that, they can look at the people that we engage with and find other lines of community if we aren't authentically reaching you in that way. It's all about relativity. It's about currency. It's about impression and influence. And so through that, we're able to empower, enlighten, and educate. And so Gay Magazine is actually going on 10 years. Gay Magazine has been going on longer than I actually joined it. I just got more skin in the game than a few others. But I'm never going to leave Gay Magazine, in my opinion, because it's my baby. I would love to leave my corporate job. Then I would. I'm not going to lie. I would love to not work a 9 to 5 and work full time Gay Mag. That would be my dream job, working with and for my community, and maybe still being on the board of directors for a nonprofit. I'm not going to lie. I love it. But Gay Mag is my heart and soul. I love everything that we do and the people we touch, and I'm not gonna cry, but it's a full circle moment. It's like being the adult that you needed as a queer Black child.
Yeah, I like the ending. Like that's my why too. Is being what we needed as children, because it wasn't seen. And like, I don't know, like what it wasn't seen. I'll speak for myself and my experience. It wasn't seen growing up for me, but you growing up around Atlanta and being just like a military kid, did you get see a lot of representation growing up?
Oh, yes and no. I saw a lot of Black queer gay representation, but not a lot of Black queer women. The Black queer women representation I got was solely from books and films. The Watermelon Woman. Then I was so obsessed with it. I looked up the director, found out she's this Black lesbian queer director, and then I realized there are more Black lesbian directors than I thought. And so I started following their artistic journey. Like I mentioned, Anita Cornwell, Audre Lorde. I can go down the whole list. Alice Walker, who I don't appreciate either. I don't believe in outing your partners. And I got a problem with that. So, and I'm not going to mention her previous partner to perpetuate that violent rhetoric. Sometimes when you still mention the name of someone that hasn't affirmed, you're still out and you're still a part of that conversation of outing them. So some ambiguity I leave there just to be protected, being a girl's girl. Because obviously Alice Walker, that's too good.
Yeah, and you you mentioned just like the literature, and like with the favorite librarian, that's why you started. Is like, what is your why of starting the favorite librarian?
So I started Favorite Librarian because my subject niche is being in a special research library, LGBTQ history, and specifically poetry and art history. However, when people would meet me in a library, they would be shocked to find out that I was queer. Or when they saw me in the library, they were like, wait, you're gay. They hire gay. I'm like, yeah, they hire gay people. And they also fire us too. What you need? And so I realized I had access to books that people in our community, Black queer community, have dreamt of but don't know exist. And if I can save a life or to save someone's day of not having joy, to know that they're not alone, anytime you open up a book and it connects to you, you're not alone. The author, the illustrator, the editors that believed in it. And when you find them and you search their community and you connect with those in there or that person directly, you find like minded souls. And so that's why I became a librarian, because I was like, one, all superheroes don't wear capes. But two, if I get to expand someone's mind and refine their independence and help them affirm who they are and what they like. So many people are afraid to say, I like this, Or, hey, I don't subscribe to monogamy, but I subscribe to ethically non-monogamous, but I didn't know what that was until I checked out this book that this Black queer poly woman wrote, Black queer trans poly woman wrote in 2017. And she also wrote a book in, 011, I mean, or oh 09 and stuff like that. When people come to you like that, it's like, yeah, there's community, not only physically, but in tangible resources.
Mm-hmm. Your why of starting the favorite librarian is to get that representation so people see themselves. And as we've seen in like the news lately of people wanting to take away books or ban books, you as a librarian, how do you feel about that?
Well, every year, if not every other legislative session, I'm always at the Capitol lobbying, just not only as a licensed professional to raise my voice, but to provide stories of impacts on how the very resources, banned books, children's queer titles, or just queer authors, how banning or limiting access, it impacts the general public because queer stories are part of American history and world history. And to limit that is only a one-sided bias, misogynoir, because it's not only oppressing and snubbing of a gender, but also of a race. So when we talk about misogynoir in that area, it also is internalized. Believe it or not, in the South at least, a lot of those that are in opposition to some of the book bans are women and women of color. Black, Hispanic, and white women make up 90% of the voices for the book bans. What we see that is sometimes highly circulated are our elected politicians and officers and officials, whether it be local, state, or regionally. And those are mostly male because our House and Senate, not only nationally, but in our red states like Georgia, which is unfortunately red, are mostly Republican and conservative. But you have mostly are male, straight, and white. So those women that are lobbying to support certain Senate or House bills are white, Latina, Hispanic, because there's a difference, and those conservative Black women and their mothers. But what it lets me know as a cisgender queer woman is that these women have disconnected based upon sexuality or identity, and that has allowed them to associate with some sort of superiority or anti-blackness that where they supersede seeing that they will be affected by these book bans. So lobbying, supporting other free book giveaways. The free Black library is brilliant. They have a great social media. They have a lot of pop-ups where you can do book swaps. You can also advocate at your public library by requesting or suggesting banned books. That way the county has to see a great demand and supply it through tax dollars. So many ways of resistance that can happen instead of just on social media. The revolution will not be televised. And it truly is that effort.
Yeah. How do you balance everything that you're doing with being the licensed librarian, working with Frontrunners Atlanta, being a part of Gay Magazine, the favorite like there's so many things that you're involved with, and like you made note, like you're still working at Warner too, like you have a 9 to 5 as well, and I think that's good to know because it's like a lot of people may see you on the internet right now thinking you're this person who's got it all figured out already, quit that 9 to 5, and is just on it right now, but there's you're out here working and hustling and grinding. So how do you find the balance?
Ooh, okay, I'm glad you said finding the balance because it's about finding a fulcrum, how to gain that balance. And that fulcrum for me is saying no. My no's are my no's. I'm not going to negotiate. I don't need a warrant for why I need to say no, and I don't need a description. It's a complete sentence. So I have had to take a step back from certain organizations because, one, I'm a part of that 92% that did enough last year. So I don't really need to do too much in the next 4 years. So I have stepped away from organizations like one you mentioned, Frontrunners. I stepped away because it was primarily white cisgender men in the Atlanta chapter that I was a part of. And I appreciate those souls, but I'm like, listen, my Black essence is also, it's worth its weight in gold and more. And you're not going to get that. And I'm not going to be an ambassador for my intersection to support the tokenism because you refuse to engage authentically at my intersection or my community. So you're putting that responsibility and education on me just by simply being there and putting the pressure of me to gain more people from my community instead of you coming in and being uncomfortable like me in the solely white spaces. So to gain balance, my no's are my no. And that has allowed me to open myself up to love myself more, to protect my personal and my me time, and to find love, you know?
Yeah, you keep bringing up this love you found, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
Are you a U-hauler? Are you a U-hauler or what, Forrest?
No. A lot of people like to think I'm already taken or I'm just very single and out here in these streets. I am single, but I'm not here in these streets. But when I say single, we have yet to make it official because I am trying to find love. But this Palestinian babe, she's cute. And let me say this. I thought black love was only black and black, but I'm like, maybe black and brown love is for me, you know. I like a little cumin, a little turmeric, turmeric. I like it, you know.
You brought it up. You brought it up. The black love. You mentioned something previously about black and white love. So your mind's changing then on that. It was once just black love, but now you're like, okay.
Listen, this is a 4 colors only. Brown, like so you can have a sip at this water fountain. If you are Caucasian from Caucasus Mountain, if you're Eastern European, if you are white America, no, you gotta have some drop of melon. You wear sunscreen. You wear socks inside. You take your outside. Yeah, you got outside clothes. You got a washcloth. Them type people, they can drink this water fountain.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
She brown, but she ain't brown, but she brown.
Okay. Okay. Question answered. Question answered.
Oh Lord.
I hear you. Do you feel like finding love in being a queer has been difficult for you?
Oh yes. Gender role still affect, at least for me, what I can speak on, lesbian lesbian relationships. And I don't mean to be toxic. Have I dated masculine presenting women? Yes. Well, most of my friends are males, and all that. But for me, a relationship outside of financial contributions is 50-50. You can take out the trash. I can change your oil myself. Like I grew up a country girl.
Okay.
Certain things that like if I am having a soft life, you're getting a soft life. And some of the masculine presenting women I have dated, not saying that all, no, not saying all, but some that I have, it was very difficult for them to receive softness or being treated tenderly or like in certain sexual capacities or romantically. I'm like, today is all about you. And it was very difficult. And for me, if I'm meeting you where you are, you're showing me how to love you, how you love yourself. But if you also don't prioritize self care and softness and saying, no, I'm not doing that, not because you're a woman, but just because you deserve to just be treated through in a luxurious way, in a luxurious way. So for me, most of the women I had dated without subconsciously being aware or really acknowledging it have been more hyper feminine to I love me some gender non binary. Say, man, I love the damn girl.
Awesome. Yeah, you that is a good point of like it's very much still like a heterosexual mindset in a lot of homosexual relationships when it comes to gender roles. I've had to like learn outgrow those just because it's what I've seen all my life. Is this one way of how love is supposed to be, and finding that like social media has helped out so much. Like without social media, I definitely wouldn't be even able to like I wouldn't have known who you were in the hotel. Like if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have known Black DC existed without social media. And so finding those connections and seeing yourself. It's hard out here. So
It is. It is.
I think with the roles and gender roles, everyone, even people are talking about like the internet right now. It's just like whether it's sexually or like you said, emotionally, of getting that feminine and that soft energy. And I'm embracing my feminine side more than I ever have. Like I ain't been those studs you was talk about them gangster type. That ain't me.
Yes.
I'm bear. I can be a grizzly bear, but I can be a teddy bear too. Everywhere in between, you know. So that's me. So yeah, but I'm learning to be more of a teddy bear more these days for sure.
Oh, come on, Bear.
I'm glad you found love though. I know you was I had now that you say you're more into feminine females, I was like, Forrest seemed my partner and I was like, wait, pipe down, Forrest. Pipe down.
Okay, listen, let me explain that. I know she's gonna be watching this later. I thought she was your manager at first, and then because the way she was like, "Hey, she came with her like, hey, you need to go talk to Woo. We seeing you." And I was like, "Oh, who is this husband Nate?" And I was like, "Who is she?" And then you came over, and she was like, "Yeah, say something to her." I was like, "Yes." I was like, "Who is that?" She's like, "This is my girlfriend." I was like, "Oh, my, you got a thug on your shoulder. You got a pit bull in a skirt." I was like, "Oh, who is that?" Because I looked up from
that,
text. I was like, "Oh."
that's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, nah, she got my back for sure.
She does.
She's definitely
We put a
she's
ring,
definitely supportive 100%.
put a ring on that thing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know it. I know it. So what do you have up next? You guys have Atlanta Pride, so you guys don't do yours with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Gay Magazine has you on the road a lot too. So what's next for Forrest?
Oh man! So potentially you may see us at the Red Dress Run in NOLA. You know they have it every year, as well as Atlanta Pride is in October. But in the meantime, we'll be also in Miami for a little event. Can't let y'all know because it's a surprise, as well as some collaborations with some major networks, such as Netflix, who we've already collaborated with, but also potentially because Noah's Ark just came out, and I'm a Noah's Ark fan, so you never know. But in the meantime, oh my goodness. I have the first 6 months of this year have been a whirlwind with Gay Magazine because, like a lot of people, we expected the first 6 months of 2025 to go completely different. So, not only have we had to replan, rethink, and refine, but in spite of uncertainty, and maybe this is the blessing, maybe this is the ancestors speaking over us, but we have been protected to still follow our dreams, to make new connections, like how we met me and your partner, and just meeting in that space that was just safe emotionally, physically, and professionally for us to just network and navigate. Wait, this is available, or wait, I didn't know I could do that. I've always thought. And so for us, the next 6 months, although we have some things on the roster, I'm really excited for the universe and God to just really surprise me, you know?
Yes, I agree. I didn't know how it would. I knew like after the election or whatnot, I had to go 10 toes down, like even harder because you're not going to silence us. That's what you ain't going to do. I feel like now I feel like I had to work harder even before. Did you feel that way, or did you feel like I needed to take a break?
Ooh, okay, so I've done a lot of interviews this year and no one has asked me that question. So that's a therapy question. That's a good one. I'm not gonna lie, I almost crashed out in January. I was so outdone with America. And I was like, we always show up. We are always the most visible, the most vocal, the most targeted. I'm taking a break. So I took kind of a hiatus from Favorite Librarian and just focused my attention at Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Gay Mag. Because I was like, one, I'm not going to be an educator because you obviously showed me your behind. and I'm not kissing it. So I, like a few other Black women of the 92%, we sat a lot of stuff out. Like, I don't care what the objective is or the intention behind it. When we needed you to show up in the most pivotal ways to avoid this, so that way our bodies aren't out there being trivialized and weaponized for another civil justice pursuit that we're being taken away through executive orders day after day, it's traumatic. So I'm like, baby, you got it. You got it. So I did take a break at the beginning of this year. So that's why when I say the first 6 months were unexpected, unplanned by some of the things going on, Gay Magazine and my tribe have been some of the saving graces for me, not to say, you know what, let me just quit my whole job and go back home. Like, y'all niggas is crazy, you know? So.
Yeah. I'm glad you got back to it, because I feel like, in a sense, like, they want us to break. They like physically break. Like, they want to break us. And you are doing such great work. Like, me being able to see you guys, and it's like I said, seeing that representation, what you guys are doing. It's also like, I'm like learning from you guys too. Like, okay, this is what they're like, utilizing some of what you guys are doing here in the Midwest. Like, this is needed too for us. Like, it can't just be for y'all over there in Atlanta. Y'all getting all of it. Like, we don't all have the privileged capacity to move to Atlanta either, or go to the spaces that we know 100% are for us. So someone has to do it for the Midwest, for those around. And so you're amazing. I love what you're doing. You're approachable. I like, we became friends after we connected. I was like, yeah, we cool.
The tribe, man.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole Gay Magazine crew was just very approachable. So I appreciate all of you guys. And you guys didn't know it, but like, just that being my first experience with a lot of things, and being accepted by you guys. And y'all, I butchered that interview. I like the, the interview was like, I'm used to doing this. I'm on this side of things, asking the questions, and the roles got reversed. And I was like, I was so hard. I was like, Ness, oh my gosh, like, I've even answered these questions before, but I was like, I don't even know what happened. I was like, I maybe just had too many mimosas. I just lost it. But
you were great. Listen, I was a little buzzed that night after walking through the club 3-4 times. And hold on. If you like the DJ at that party, DJ Boss Brit and DJ Excel, they are out of Atlanta. So you got a little bit of that Atlanta taste while you were there. But no,
that's why I went. Because the No Homo show. Like, of course, I know. Yeah, I'm doing my research over here. I'm doing my research.
They are family to us. I love them. I brought in my birthday with them at a party that they hosted and had me. So it was wonderful. But yeah, okay. But you had a great interview.
Yeah, it was dope. I appreciated you, like, letting me get the word out of Queen Talk too. And I don't know when I'll see you next, but hopefully you'll be in Kansas sometime. Get you out here in Kansas.
I would love to. I need to take a road trip. You know, I got a Jeep Wrangler, so it ain't enough for me to hop in that thing and pull up.
It's only 14 hours.
Damn, not mine. I will fly.
Yeah, it's a drive for sure. What advice do you have for the queer people of color?
Oh, what I will say to any Black queer or any queer is, one, in order to find community, you have to know yourself, have firm boundaries of what you want in this world and what you don't. But those are not expectations of others, just in how to keep people in your life and keep yourself sane and happy. And in order, secondly, to find community, put yourself out there, whether on the apps or in person. Go to places you like, libraries, like-minded people do like-minded things. Put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there. You definitely have to. I'm a testament to that. I wouldn't have connected with you. I wouldn't be where I am today, connecting with a lot of queer people of color, if I didn't put myself out there. So that is very true. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with today besides what you just mentioned?
Oh, one, let your nose be known. Two, you do not deserve rest. It is a requirement of your health and your well being. And three, the way you talk to yourself is a blueprint for how you talk to others. Talk kindly to yourself. Give yourself grace. Give yourself patience and the same love you expect in this world. You can give it to yourself first.
You knew you was raised by a therapist. Self-love, no is a full sentence. Get that rest is a requirement. Yes. 100%. 100%. And love yourself. That is so true. You definitely have to speak kindly to yourself too. I think we all, like you mentioned earlier, we're all guilty of that. We all wrestle with the what's the word I'm looking for? Where you don't feel like you're in imposter syndrome. We all feel that a little bit sometimes, and I think you are where you are where you're at and you belong. I have to tell myself that constantly, even being in DC, this Midwest Kansas girl, and all these other people that are from DC and New York and Chicago, and I'm just like, I belong here too. Like we belong here too. Our voices need to be heard too. So yeah, I love like I said earlier what you're doing for the community. Keep doing what you're doing with Gay Magazine. Favorite librarian. I think it's all important. The representation is definitely needed, and we need it for sure. So thank you for being a guest on Queen Talk and Sharon.
No, thank you. And listen, Bear, thank you so much for holding space for me and allowing me to be transparent and as open and honest. This I consider a lifeline of kinship and sisterhood. I can't wait to get an invitation to the wedding. Because if I ain't with Palestinian Bear, I'm looking for a bear in your east side with, bride and the bride, whoever's single. Let me know which cousin. You know what I'm saying? What
Yes.
and thank you.
Yes, you and Polaroid Poppy got to come through for sure.
Let me know.
Couldn't go without mentioning him. He's awesome too.
Yes, Polaroid Poppy, shout out to Rico.
Yeah. Well, just thank you again. Yeah, whole Gay Magazine team. Shout out to all of them. Thank you again, Forrest. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Queen Talk. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, and leave a comment. What did you think of this episode? Midwest talking to the Atlanta, like it's two different perspectives, two different lifestyles. It was a good conversation, and as Forrest said, no means no. Rest is a requirement.
Come on.
And take care of yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. And as always, family, friends, strangers, love and be nice.